What's up, fellas?
What's going on? We just got through Christmas and on the eve of the new year.
You know what? This might be the new group chat for 2026. Dee's out. It's me, Anand, and Zach.
We can kick Dee out.
This could be it.
We kind of need him for the unhinged.
No, we do, but there's a lot of Kathys that like the new trio, I think.
Yeah, Dee will probably be listening. I think he has some downtime, and he's probably going to be angry that he's not on the pod right now.
Yeah, well, he's in a better place. I don't know if we can say, but he's having a nice end of the year holiday with the family. And Dee, if you're listening, first, fuck off, and second, I hope you're having a great time.
I think he's having a great time, and he can discuss when he gets back for the awards episode, right? We're doing the predictions and awards next week, next Sunday.
We got our topics,
Zach,
right?
Are you in town? Yeah. Zach, we'd love for you to be there.
Yeah. I'll be here.
I'd love to hear Zach's takes on that. Yeah.
And
that's
good. Wall Street Journal has done a few articles in the last couple of weeks to close out the year on where the ultra wealthy are spending their time. And I think, look, we can make assumptions, but I think Dee's in one of those places.
Well, you would think so, right? I mean, it's such a no-brainer. Anyway, whatever. I don't want to talk too much mystery without the audience. It's not a big deal, audience. But let's get into it. We're in the holiday season. How was your guys' Christmas?
Mine was low-key, just family, just me, Amanda, kids, and my mom. We were really just chilling. Nothing.
Up here or?
Yeah, in LA.
At your house?
Yeah.
Zach, what about you?
Mine was pretty low key too. I organized it so that it was as low key as possible. It's really nice.
No,
Nothing
AI is
crazy.
the Antichrist speeches or anything.
Oh no, I usually try to run that past my parents every time I'm there, but they are pretty immune to it now. So
So when you go to family Christmas, obviously they know you're like super deep in the tech world.
Yeah.
How much do you have to kind of like filter at the dinner table?
I try not to filter. My mom is like on basically the opposite side of me with everything. So
nice.
It's usually just me and her arguing, and then my dad's pretty much in the middle. So he kind of just watches.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's home, Zach? Can you say?
Home's LA.
Right.
But,
Okay.
Real home's New Zealand, but home for a long time is LA.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so jealous. I'm so incredibly jealous, especially as I get older. Sorry, I know my parents are listening. I love you guys so much, and I had such a great time. But I am so jealous of your families being local. Like, Ohio.
You gotta sell,
what?
You could sell your company and just get them a house out here.
I know. I mean, it's just like the problem is the flight is pretty much New York distance. So I think I've probably complained about this on the podcast before, but it's not an super easy flight. And it's just far.
And those Midwest legs, you don't get the lie flats, which is kind of brutal.
Not even close, dude.
You get like those real old planes. They
give you the shit planes.
And the reason why it's the same time as LA, New York is because they don't have the quick turnaround. So they go faster in the LA, New York because they want to run that route back. So they're just extending your flight because they don't want to burn the oil. So it's like a cost savings thing.
Damn, that's a good little piece of knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, think about where Ohio is and where New York is. Why is it the same time? Because they're not burning the oil fast.
They don't give a shit about people going back and forth. On the way back, especially, like it felt real. I don't know if it was actually shorter or what happened, but it felt pretty painless on the way there. But then the way back was brutal. I also think it was really cold and rainy and there's nowhere to like do any sort of exercise or anything. So I think, spending a few days just kind of sitting around and then you're sitting on a plane for 4.5 hours, I think, I don't know, I don't really care much about like a flight to New York or whatever. It's not like I'm that much of a flight, little baby, but it felt brutal. And it's like we said, this is a very bubble problem, but they give you the crappy planes. They give you the weird flight hours. They give you,
and they go slow.
And they go slow as all hell. And I feel like every year there's like less options for flights, like you either got to go crazy early or red eye or whatever. But anyway, whatever. I don't want to complain too much, but I will say it's always a great, it's just the heartland of America. Like it's, kind of going around, or like I walked through a Target for a while. I obviously talked to my cousins and stuff. I'll give you an example. Like we just did a collaboration with that brand Comfort that we keep talking about on the podcast, right? Huge apparel company having a lot of success on TikTok Shop and things. But I found out about Comfort from my little cousins last year at Christmas because they were telling me that that's what everyone was wearing at school. And so that's how I found out. And then I reached out to the owner, and that's how that all happened. So I like to just like see what they're up to. Obviously try to kind of understand what's going on in politics, all that. And it's just,
so what can you report back? What are the tales from the heartland? What's the pulse of the real America?
Yeah. And
so here's
mysterious Somalian businesses too.
I didn't see that. And I think that's like a great question. I think maybe we need to be more on the lookout. I think it doesn't seem like there's any of those type of issues happening in at least where I'm from. But here's one thing. So I'm lucky that my family isn't really political. Like there was really no conversation about politics. I tried to get them a little bit into some conspiracy stuff, not really taking the bait. I have an aunt who is very on the left, and I tried to kind of tease her and, bait her into some stuff, but not enough that I wanted to ruin the evening. But she didn't really take the bait. One of the comments I got was like Labubus. I can't believe everyone has Labubus. They look like demons. And we think they're a satanic toy.
Sure.
And
I can see that.
And they're evil. And I can't believe LeBron has one, and what's going on. And I'm not buying. I don't want my kids to carry around satanic toys. And then, look, I think my biggest takeaway, because once again, I don't want to be boring here. It's not like I have some revolutionary thing. I think that the takeaway for me was like we talked about this on the pod. Like we talk so much about like AI and like kind of cutting edge everything and like robots and fucking driverless, Waymos and like, Dee has said a couple of times on the pod, like I looked to my left and I saw a Waymo. I looked to my right and I saw a Postmates robot delivering a thing. Wow, we are in the future. Yes. But that is very, very, very much a big city thing still. And in the smaller, in like the rest of the country, that is not what it looks like. It's not what's happening. People are going to Target and Walmart. People are, wearing clothes from the mall. Like there's no Chrome Hearts. There's no driverless cars. Everyone's driving. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's a good reset of like how far along, it's still the mainstream things are what resonates there.
So if you were to think about the handful of days you were there, if you didn't bring it up, would anyone bring up AI or any of the stuff that we talk about ad nauseum?
Only a couple times in passing that no one's going to have jobs, like a fear. There's fear.
Okay.
It's not going to matter anyway. AI is going to take it anyway. It doesn't matter anyway. No, the only thing about AI, and this is actually a shame, not that I'm not AI advocate, but like it came up a couple times in passing in sort of a scared and like pessimistic way. That's like, it doesn't matter because AI is going to take all our jobs anyway, or it doesn't matter because AI is going to whatever anyway. Instead of, the one thing that's interesting is like I had a cousin who I was just overhearing because I didn't want to jump in, talking about starting her first LLC. And she was talking about like, I'm learning how to do my taxes, and I've always been on W-2 and now I'm this and all this stuff. And like, there was not one time, and sorry family, if you're listening, because maybe you guys are doing this and I heard wrong, but like AI was never mentioned in like and I just looked it up on ChatGPT, or I just asked ChatGPT and figured out how to do it. Like there was one thing I noticed about living in LA is people reference what they learned or how they're using ChatGPT like all the time. Whether it's like, I use it to make this thing, I use it to, help me with my financials. Some people literally, I've heard a lot of people say, I used it for advice on my dating life. Like they use it a lot where I didn't hear one person. It was only scary.
Oh, not additive to their life.
Yeah. I didn't hear one person reference like, and then I used it to do my taxes this year and holy cow, it was so much easier. I used it to, like there was no. And it was a noticeable shift from the way people talk here. Which
probably means that this AI stuff has way longer to run than most people think. Because if you are in New York or LA or San Francisco, everyone's like, oh, this is a bubble. How could it be more valuable than this?
Yep.
I agree. Where does it go from here? And if what you're saying is true, which obviously it is, most people outside of these large metropolitan places probably have only started to scratch the surface on how to use these things.
Yep.
And so that just leads me to believe that there's way more to run.
I totally agree.
I think it's very similar to like when Uber came out, everyone compared it to the taxi industry. Oh, the taxi industry is X. How is Uber worth so much? Well, guess what? Uber moves everything.
Right.
And I feel like similarly, AI is just going to touch everything. So I actually think it's not a bubble at all and actually probably massively undervalued when you think about scale, that no one in the Midwest, no one in all these different parts of the world have even interacted with AI.
Yep.
Like this is crazy what the potential TAM is.
And I don't know how you solve this, right? But my note would be, I think even I am sometimes surprised at the way people that I know use ChatGPT or use AI. Like meaning, I don't know, I'll give you an example. This is from a few months ago, but someone came to me, one of my friends, and said, hey, I put into ChatGPT what my financial goals were. I want to earn X from my investments. I'd like to, this is what financial freedom looks like to me. This is how much I would have to gain every year to whatever. Yep. And then they put in all of their financial information. And they were like, ChatGPT gave me a really thorough readout of like what I would have to do to reach those goals. And at that time, I was like, damn, I didn't really think about that. Like, I didn't really realize you could use it that way. And I think part of the problem is like people don't even really, all it is, I mean, it looks like a Google search tab, right? Like it's kind of familiar in the sense of like, it's just the start of a chat. And I think a lot of people don't realize how helpful it really is. Like, it's way different than Google. It's way different than, but I think that like, because it's all under one big umbrella called ChatGPT or Grok or whatever.
Gemini, whatever. Yep.
Yeah. You don't even know, you don't even realize how diverse of information it can give you.
And from a learning perspective, it prompts you 3 different questions after you ask it something that you probably never even would have thought of.
Yes.
So, for example, I'll tell you, this happened over the weekend. So, Grok with a Q, Chamath's company that sold for $20 billion to, or licensed for $20 billion to NVIDIA. And there's all these licensing deals that are happening now with big tech. Part of it's mostly for antitrust. You're not on the radar of regulatory branches because it's technically a license and not an acquisition. Anyways, it's kind of become the new fad in big tech acquisitions. And I would say 3 months ago, I would have reached out to Zach or, one of my Silicon Valley friends and been like, can you explain to me what the difference is? Because I actually didn't know. And I just went on Gemini, 5 minutes. I understood. I was like, okay, this makes sense. And I didn't have to ask anyone.
Yes. And you know what else blows my mind is how it remembers everything. So you can say like, remember when I asked you about whatever? Well, here's a new piece of information. How does that affect it? Or here's my financial planning. And by the way, I just got a big unexpected, deal that went through. I got $100,000 that I didn't expect. How does that affect my financial goals? Like there's like this relationship with it that I think that it's just hard. If you don't know, if someone doesn't show you that, you don't know that it can even do that. Like you don't think to go to it for that.
And think about, we've all been in dinners where you hear things and you're so insecure about asking a question. You can just go at the dinner table and be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah, I do it when we're recording all the time. And like when I was like a perfect example is when I was hearing my cousin talk about, starting an LLC for the first time. And rightfully so. She was intimidated and didn't know what the change was. And like, she was like, oh, I heard that you can write off, like I can write off my clothes now because I'm a business. Like, and it's just like, if you're in a small town where, keep in mind, she was saying that to my aunts and things and they didn't know. So she has no advice. And now, unlike ever before, you can have that conversation with ChatGPT and not only learn it, but learn way more than you didn't even know you didn't know. And so anyway, that's my case for the not bubble is I think not only has like the penetration not even reached, but I don't even think people realize how powerful these things are. And actually the scary part is there's so much doomsday news about it that it's not like people aren't opening their minds to like how good it actually is, like all the good that it can do for them.
It sounds like these big LLM companies, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when like iPhones first came out, and still to some extent, they used to hold like seminars at the Apple store on like, this is how you send a message. Yes. This is how you send an email. Sounds like the LLM company should probably invest some money in like some public. They literally should. Like that.
That's what they should do. You're totally right.
The Apple store still has seminars.
Yeah.
If you go to the Grove Apple store, I'm sure every Apple store does. I just go to that one.
Yeah.
There's seating and there's someone that presents to show new features and how to use the iPhone better than any of the Apple products.
But it's also like
drama. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just real quick. It's like, they give a lesson on how to use like iPhoto and all the great capabilities, and you can edit photos, or how to use GarageBand, or like, you're totally right. They should do pop-ups. Like, I wonder how many millions of people have attended an Apple class. Probably a lot.
Probably more than you think.
Yes.
And like the average person before that probably uses 20% of the functionality of their iPhone. They like send messages, make calls, browse the internet. Yes. But there's like so much stuff that you can do on your iPhone. And it's the same thing with LLMs. Most people use LLMs for the most like, bottom of the barrel, easy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. The people that I'm around, the way that they use their LLMs would like blow most people's mind at how much they put into them and also how much they get out of them.
Yes. And like, I think one of the things that, once again, I have these little like moments that like perspective shifts or appreciation when I go to Ohio is like, we're very lucky. And, we did it on purpose, right? Like, I think we're all naturally curious people, but like we have a really good network of really, really smart people. And, in any big city, you can build that. And one thing I noticed is like, if you're in Ohio or any of these like, middle of the country, I would say even smaller towns, like you just don't have that. It does not exist. And so
well, what I think people also don't realize is you can just ask the LLMs, what is the best way to use you? Here are the problems that exist in my life. How should I use you to maximize the output that will help me with these things?
Yes.
Like, I think most people don't even realize you can use LLMs to learn about how to use LLMs.
Yes, you're right. And another thing I've seen that's really popular is like people will post on Twitter, like, here's 10 prompts that will change your life. Like it's kind of like the seminar-y type thing. Like, you're right. I really think if they did seminar, like they should do a seminar that's like how to use it for financial, how to use it for this, how to use it for that. Like, I see that ChatGPT started doing these billboards that's like, or commercials that's like a kid doing some bench presses and like, he got his workout routine off of ChatGPT. It's just like, that's still not, you can get that off of Google search. Like
YouTube. Yeah.
It doesn't show. And I think it's a shame because I do feel for these people that live in places like where I grew up, where it's hard to imagine because of the internet and how thorough our networks are. But like, if you just don't know anyone that knows how to start a business and start, whatever, do you start an LLC? Do you start an S Corp? Do you start a whatever? Like, it's just really scary and really daunting and something that really shouldn't be. Like, all it is an operational issue. It's not it's not like did you go to college or not? It's just something to figure out the same way you figure out anything. But if you don't know anyone, it's just very scary.
My question for you, Drama. So if you think about post great financial crisis, specifically places like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, all the places where there were auto plants shutting down, manufacturing plants shutting down, and massive job losses, basically like 2008 onwards.
Yeah.
And there was this big notion these people that were at that time, 40s and 50s, had to get retrained because those jobs don't exist anymore. Right. So they were like going back to school to learn how to use Excel and whatnot to get a desk job.
Right.
Now, these same people have the skill that is most in demand, which is trade work. Has that come to the Heartland? That do they realize that they are the talent now? That in this next 10 years, data centers, everything is physical infrastructure that needs to be built with this AI boom.
Yeah. So I think not where I'm from. Now, the other thing I want to clarify is like, once again, this is not a diss to where I'm from. I love you guys and I'm very glad I grew up there. But the other thing I realized on this trip is like, there's kind of like Cleveland or like a city, and then there's the suburb of that place. And then there's kind of like where I'm from, which is almost like pretty small, like suburb of the suburb, like American town. And I would imagine that I don't know how the population is made up, but there's a lot of people in that zone. And I think, to be honest, those are the people that feel the most like kind of left behind. And I think those people are still grinding it out. Like I have cousins and stuff who are doing, insulation and electrician work and all that stuff. I don't think that they're seeing the opportunity of like scale. It's still like hand to hand combat. Like, I don't know. I think maybe in some of the nicer areas, like people might own HVAC companies and those sort of things. I don't know. So I can't really speak on it, but no, what I'll tell you is I think here was going to be my take is I think in a way, I'm not sure on this take, but let me just freestyle it, is like there were all of these cities that blew up like however long ago with steel and all those things that you're talking about, right? And then it sounds like we kind of outsourced, automotive, Detroit, all that stuff. It sounds like we kind of outsourced most of that to other countries. The big mega cities really blew up, because of technology and industry. And of course, that's going to always be there. And it just sort of left all of this area of America like gutted. There's just nothing else came in. Like even around me, even in Akron, it was like big on like Goodyear tires and Firestone and rubber and all that stuff, right? That's all completely gone. So all of my like relatives, like older, aunts and uncles in that generation, they came up like starting to work at those places and then they moved. What I do see is like people are getting really excited about like, oh, did you see that Amazon just bought, however many acres over in Massillon because they're going to build a new distribution center, or there's going to be so I think that there is an opportunity to have this like second wave. And that will affect, like you said, the trade workers and the electricians. But like you really could, like you could see, I don't know how real it is yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but like all of this talk about all these companies, Apple and everyone investing in manufacturing plants and stuff in the US, you really see how it could, in theory, create sort of a second wave.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. It's just going to be who's going to participate. Yeah. And I think those parts of the country have a massive head start. They just need to be coached on how to use the skills they already have.
Yeah.
And they probably just need a refresher as opposed to someone on the coast that is going to be like, I don't even know how to, put together a desk from IKEA.
Yes. And like, I'll tell you this, it's a little deep, but like my honest judgment is I think it's more about like, you got to change their mentality. Like, I think there's a lot of places in this country that their mentality, their culture is we are the forgotten about people. Like that is literally the culture. Like they forgot about us. And to try to show them that, hey, there might be another wave coming. Don't miss it because you're so used to being disregarded. That I think is the actual trick, is to like motivate. Because I'm telling you, it's a culture. It's what you talk about at the dinner table. It's what you live it. It's literally just, there used to be rubber here. There used to be steel here. My dad used to work in the whatever factory and now no one gives a shit about us. And like to try to turn that mentality around, I think. Yeah,
there's an opportunity of hope, in my opinion.
Big time.
That I think the coast don't have the hope. That's like the reality.
In theory, the hope could shift back a little bit more in that direction.
For sure.
Because I think who's actually screwed are all the people who graduated from expensive colleges with their student debt that live in New York right now and wonder why they can't and think Mamdani is going to help them. That's like the new screwed generation.
Yeah, the person with $250,000 of debt trying to get an entry level marketing job at a company. That
Yes.
person isn't going to have a tough 10 years.
Yeah, that would be my guess. I think, once again, my view, it's a different bubble, the view from where I'm from, but like the view is that, and please, once again, anyone correct me if, or anyone, in my DMs or whatever, correct me if you see it differently. But in my opinion, like ever since the '08 crash, places like where I'm from have not, it's not gotten better. I would say at best it's stagnated. And I would say in a lot of ways it's deteriorated, but there's not new shopping centers, new housing, new, out here, like you can't turn your head without seeing a new construction on a semi-luxury apartment complex. That's not happening there. There's no developments. There's no new Top Golf. And I just think there's a real opportunity.
Yeah. Someone's going to do it, and someone with the vision's there. You don't even need a vision. It's just, how do you get the troops going? How do you rally the troops? Honestly, you just need someone to go there and rally the troops. They have the skill.
But that's why, what kills me is like, and I don't mean to go this way, but like what kills me, and there's a lot that you could complain about this fella, but like when, let's say Tim Walz, right, in Minnesota is like celebrating Tesla stock dropping. It's like, that's the wrong mentality. Or when AOC is chasing Amazon out of New York, it's the wrong, like you're actually, it doesn't matter where you fall politically, you're doing a disservice to your people, because actually the thing that's going to draw them out of, negativity, and that is opportunity and money and upward mobility and jobs. And they're coming from those people. And so like, I just don't see, you can talk shit on Elon or Bezos or, billionaires all day long, but okay, then how is how is this person in Ohio or Detroit's life going to get better? Unfortunately, it's going to be a billionaire that's going to, it's going to be a guy with a huge corporation that moves some stuff there. Like that's just what it's going to be. So are you hoping that like,
I think that the other side of that coin is like, maybe it seems like it's more polarizing where there used to be a middle, in the sense that it's either going to be, you're going to work for one of these large companies or adjacent to them. So like an Amazon, OpenAI, Grok, whatever, or you're going to have to be more entrepreneurial and figure out sort of like, there's like this deinstitutionalization of capitalism to some extent, where it's like, to your point, a lot of these people were like, oh, without Goodyear, we're kind of fucked, because we had this big institution in this place and we had that safety net that institution would always be hiring. Right. But to your other point that you made, there's people like your cousin who's like trying to figure out how to set up an LLC to do whatever it is that she wants to do. And there probably needs to be like a lot more of that, actually, which is actually what America was founded on, was this like entrepreneurial spirit. Right. So I just think that there's like, I don't know. I think that you're going to start to, I think that the opportunity is actually to just be more entrepreneurial and go out and start your own thing and not worry about having to wait for these large corporations to basically figure out if there's jobs for you in whatever specific town or city or whatever.
That's totally true. But my point that I want to add to that, not disagree, is like, either way, all of these massive corporations are great. Like, meaning if you're a small business that sells things, chances are you might want to use Amazon. So you should be cheering on Amazon. Or you're setting up a small business, chances are ChatGPT could help you a lot, or Grok or whatever, right? Like, either way, it's a net positive. Like, it's just the thing that drives me crazy is the mentality that like, it's all bad, or like these corporations are all evil, or the billionaires, or I see head on. Like, let me give an example once again, like using my cousin as an example. If the messaging that she received was, wow, AI is amazing and it's the best asset or best tool if you want to start a business, she'd be probably 10 steps ahead and so excited and awesome. But instead, the messaging that they hear is it's evil and it's going to take all your jobs and nothing's worth it anyway. And it's controlled by evil billionaires. And so it stopped her from learning how to use it. Yeah. And it's just like, either way, like abundance is what we, you know what I mean? Like prosperity, it is a little bit of a rising tide floats all boats. I don't think there's like a mentality that the corporations are just going to eat everyone's lunch and there won't be any more entrepreneurs. I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true. And I think you could like look at history, which has repeated itself many times through these large secular shifts to technology. Like I'm sure blacksmiths who made horseshoes probably thought the same way about Henry Ford when he started to, mass manufacture cars. And they were like, fuck this guy. My job's going away because now I have no more horses. The horse and carriage is gone. So I can't put my horseshoes on any more horses.
Right.
But the car ends up unlocking a massive GDP growth to all of these different countries because now you can transport goods and do all of these different services. I think that most people over-index on not having a clear sense of the future versus kind of just looking at history and saying there are all these times, printing press, the car, internet, where tons of people were displaced, but it ended up being a net benefit to everybody. And I don't really know if this is going to be any different necessarily.
Yeah. And that's where like my one thing that I'm the most passionate about, that who knows, maybe later in life, I'll find a way to turn this passion into something effective, but like, is just negativity is the killer. Like the only thing that kills you every time is the doomsday negativity. Everyone's bad. Billionaires are bad. Money's bad. Wealth is bad. It's all bad. It just kills you. I mean, I am from one of the areas impacted the hardest by the opioid, fentanyl. That's all just a lack of hope. I mean, obviously there's a lot to it. It's very nuanced, but like I would say at the core of it, the reason why that area is so affected by it is that's the area who was kind of stripped of hope the most. And I just think like anyone in leadership or power or trust or authority that gives doomsday narratives or, kind of a disdain for success, I think there's a lot more guilt on those people's hands than they even realize because they're just trying to get elected and speak to, the way people are feeling today instead of telling them how they should feel tomorrow. And I see it ruins people's lives, like just the negativity, the lack of hope.
And the problem is the message that's working is this affordability message, which worked for Trump 1.0, Mondani, wealth tax. We can get into that since we're already kind of segueing into that whole messaging is everyone wants a bailout now because they're doing exactly what you're saying. They're being predatory on the negativity sentiment that you can't afford your life. And saying like, hey, guess what? You can't afford your life. You're right. You don't need to actually learn these new skills. You know what we're going to do? We're going to tax rich people and you don't need to learn those new skills. And then you're going to be able to pay for your housing.
Which is so bad.
That's what's going on.
It's so bad.
But it's like working.
But this is what's crazy. If I put your leg in a cast for 3 months, it would atrophy and you wouldn't be able to walk right after 3 months. Nothing was wrong with your leg. To me, that is what we're doing. Like we're sheltering. We're saying it's okay. We're going to take care of you. It isn't possible. You can't do it. You can't. And then what happens is you sort of atrophy people's like ambition, and now they need the help. And I just think it's so bad because fundamentally the government can't solve this problem. Like the government alone can't. It just doesn't work. Like that structure has never worked. You can't just have a bunch of people that are, essentially like what the whole country's on welfare, or UBI or whatever. It's so bad. It's so bad. I know why it works, but man, the real message is like, look at all these great tools, look at all these resources. I mean, I don't know if there's any data to back this up, but I would imagine it is statistically easier to start a business, than ever before in human history. I would imagine it's easier to.
There's never been a more level playing field than it is today. Right. But you don't need to go to Stanford, Harvard. You don't even need to go to college. And you can have the exact same skill set as anyone with your freaking phone. Android, iPhone, does not matter. Anyone can do it.
But nobody's saying that. You know what I'm saying? It's either like sort of the left being like everyone's evil and success is bad and we're going to take care of you, and the left being, or the right being like, shut the fuck up, I guess. Like they're not really even communicating it that well. I think, to be honest, they're doing a lot of like golden age and everything's good, but you're not really explaining to people how to be a part of it or why it's, what exactly. But yeah, I just, every time I visit Ohio, that part, that is what I come away with is like, man, it's just sort of a shame. Like there's a lot of the mentality of like, everyone forgot about us. No one cares. All these evil rich people are taking over and we're just left here. And I think it's terrible.
Yeah. All right.
But listen, other than that, great trip. I didn't mean for it to be a downer. I had a great time. I saw my family. I love them so much. Everything was great. And yeah, it's pretty wild. Like my little cousins who like were always babies, now they have babies. And
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
because I remember when we started Reckless, you'd be like Santa Claus bringing your cousins, your little cousins who were probably like in junior high at the time.
Yeah, now they all have babies.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking them little, things and whatever. But it is, it was great. Contrary to everything I just said, that sounded like I was complaining. Do we want to get into news or where are we at?
Let's do it. We have to talk Minnesota. It's the biggest story on the internet. This is where I don't know. Is this actually conversations outside the internet in average people's homes, or is this just an internet story?
I don't know.
I'm
really lucky
curious.
that my family just literally does not bring up politics. They just don't. Like you've heard my dad talk. He's like really smart, but like not. He just isn't. He's just not like strong politic. He doesn't have. He doesn't lean one way or the other too strongly. So it didn't come up in my household, but I would imagine it came up in pretty much every other household.
Well, I think that the critical mass for people caring about this actually happened like 2 days ago when that one kid dropped that documentary. It's like 45 minutes. I encourage people to go watch it on YouTube, where it seems like it's getting suppressed. It has like 90 million views on Twitter, less than 1 million on YouTube.
Wow.
But he basically spent a day with a list of all of these different daycares that are run by Somalian immigrants in Minnesota, going and checking to see how many kids were at each of these daycares. And I think he visited 7 or 8, didn't see one kid. And each of these daycare centers were getting paid somewhere between $1 and $3 million a year with taxpayer money to basically be funded to run. And he couldn't find one kid.
Like, how do I look it up?
So the kid's name is Nick Shirley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's a 23-year-old kid that just went with his iPhone and a camera guy, I think another camera guy, and just started this documentary. And it's kind of, the story is this investigative journalism and like the internet and Twitter have taken it. This kid did more work in a few days than 60 Minutes has done all year. So like 60 Minutes spends 6 months on a story. This kid just went and did it and put it on his phone. And like Zach said, I just looked, it was over 100 million on Twitter. I did not know that it's being suppressed on YouTube, but I'm sure Elon's obviously, amplifying the video on Twitter. But Minnesota is, in my opinion, the canary in the coal mine in terms of how much fraud there is across all these states in the country with the budgets they have. So I looked, Minnesota, their annual budget is $67 billion annually for the state of Minnesota. And just the daycare fraud. So apparently like 6 to 8 million has actually been documented fraud, but they suspect it's up to 100 million in the state annually.
No, right. 8 billion is what they're suggesting.
No, that's across all the different programs, daycare specifically. Okay. So if you do all the other child, so if you like back up, they think at the high end it's 9 to 18 billion across all fraud in the state. That includes Medicaid, Medi-Cal, or not Medi-Cal, not for there, but Medicaid, state healthcare, whatever the equivalent of PPP was in that state. And then obviously all these child services. So they're saying on the high end, that's not just the daycare, that's every fraud. So 9 to 18 billion. I know it's a large range on a $67 billion annual budget. Right. The point is there's a ton of fraud and it's taking a 23-year-old kid to actually like systematically uncover it. So let's look at California. The budget for California is $322 billion annually. How much fraud is in California?
Right. Because there's no way this is unique to Minnesota.
No chance.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is like, I don't really know much about this. And I have a lot of questions, but like, that's my biggest thing too, is like, there's just no way this is a Minnesota problem. This must be being recreated across the country.
Every state in the country has some version of this.
Right.
And it's largely because the incentives of the like medical regime in America is so poor, and there's so few checks and balances on how the subsidies for medical services happen in this country. And so what they were seeing in Minnesota was that like some guy would basically come in and say, hey, I need to be transported to this clinic. Right. And they would say, okay, sign 3 years of transport documents for us, and we will take you there for the next 3 years. And then they would just never show up to pick him up. Right. And so it's like some version of this exists at a large scale in every state, and probably federally too, to some extent.
I mean, California's must be absurd.
Oh yeah. They're not checking anything. You
just because of the size, just the sheer volume.
And the place where this has been the most obvious for the longest time, I'm sure people are going to start to look into it more now because this has come out, but like has been the whole homeless situation in California, San Francisco and Los Angeles specifically. There's some like insane number of billions that is spent on the homeless problem in both of these cities every year. And it has only gotten worse.
Okay, here's my question. I might be asking you guys to speculate a little, probably a lot, but like, in your opinion, I guess, or maybe this is known, is like, what role do the Tim Wallses of these places play in this? Like, do they turn a blind eye? Are they getting kickback somewhere along the way? Is it just incompetence? It's happening under their nose. Like, what's the actual?
So there's 100,000, I believe, or maybe a few more Somalians in Minnesota. And there have been multiple tweets that have been pulled up throughout this where Tim Walz is like, we should actually be paying these daycare centers more money, et cetera. And what they've realized is that there are these large blocks of constituents. 100,000 people in Minnesota is enough to swing an election, a gubernatorial election, a gubernatorial, mayoral, even up to the sort of congressional or Senate level. And so if you can like appease 100,000 people by sort of like kicking the can down the road on this, they're going to vote for you. And so I think that like where the kickback is that you are swinging votes your way through like very sort of like duplicitous practices.
Right.
And that just allows you to retain more power and sort of get reelected in some of these places.
Yeah, I think, and just more broadly, drama is like none of these states, the defense budget federally can't pass an audit. California can't pass an audit. Right. There's no checks and balances of where the money's going. I mean, the fact that the defense budget has never passed an audit, I think we spend $1 trillion annually. Is that right?
Yeah, it's around there. It's like 900 billion. But then there's all of these things that are black budgets where you can't even begin to audit them because A, you don't know how much money is in them. And then B, there's actually no record of where it goes. They're just kind of these slush funds that can be used at the discretion of the Pentagon and other places like this.
I mean, I can only imagine, and Elon alluded to this, but I can only imagine that if you could grasp like the sheer size of like the amount of money, first of all, that's even generated via taxes, and then like, if you could see some graphs on like where it's actually being allocated, I bet it is completely mind blowing.
Well, if you think about like just California is basically the Saudi Arabia of America. It has a tech industry that will print taxes ad nauseum that would cover everything. And yet somehow we still operate at a loss every year, which like there's no way that it should happen. This is like the 5th largest economy in the world. And somehow we can't balance the books. And it's 100% because the money is just being spent completely incompetently. And that's true for even Minnesota. Minnesota used to operate at like a $10, $12 billion positive surplus every year. Now it's down to like -6, -8. So it's a $20 billion swing in a couple of years. And you can just point to things like this as the main reason why that's happening. And that's happening at every state, basically, which is why taxes keep going up, why things keep getting more expensive, et cetera. It's like the knock-on effects are actually really pernicious to the average person.
Do you think it's a right or left issue or no?
I think it's a bipartisan issue. I think both states on both sides of the aisle fuck this up.
Yeah, I don't think there's a state in across the 50 that can't have a similar percentage of fraud.
The only one that I think is doing kind of okay, because they're literally giving their people who live in the state an actual dividend, is maybe Alaska. But Alaska has so much natural resources that they can just, continue to take oil and all these other things out of Alaska that they can pay the people that live in the state. But the 49 other states are basically completely fucked.
Here's like the one take I have heard, different topic, but I wonder if it could be applicable to the fraud across states in the country. So when we talk about all the funding we did for Ukraine, right? And there's stories that have been published that U.S. officials had to go to Ukraine, like, stop stealing so much money, like steal less. We know you're stealing, but just calm down a little bit. Right. Effectively what they sent people to Ukraine, to their senior officials.
That's proven, right? Like that was in an email leak or something?
That was in a Wall Street Journal article.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not like, this is not like some conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I just forgot where it came from, but yeah.
Yeah, it was like I mean, mainstream media, put it that way. Yes. Now we can question what that means at this point, but it was definitely in like a national publication. Yeah. And anyone can Google it. So my point is, there would be like some geopolitical think tanks that say, guess what, guys? Yeah, the world's ugly. This is the cost of doing business. But guess what? The U.S. has to show up for Ukraine because we can't let Russia to keep charging through Eastern Europe. And guess what? There's going to be fraud and waste along the way. And yeah, these Ukrainians are going to have Veyrons in Monaco and Bentleys in Dubai. But we just have to do it. That's kind of what the response was from like people who have been in this geopolitical world for the last 30, 40 years. Yeah. So I'm curious, is this like what we do in states? Like, guess what? There's going to be fraud, but guess what? California is still a nice place to live.
Yeah. Yes.
I think ever since we sort of like depegged the dollar from gold and just made it sort of this like amorphous thing that you could just print infinite of, the United States point of view on most problems is just throw more money on it because we can just make more of it. Like, just throw more money at it. We can make more of it and it doesn't matter. But like, it's starting, the cracks are starting to show. Inflation is insane. People are slowing down the buying of our treasuries. A lot of money is moving into things like gold and silver. Silver just went on like a crazy run, which is, if you're a student of history, that's never a good sign. Right. Like the central banks of the world in places like Turkey and Nigeria, they just print so much money that it just becomes worthless. Right. And America, and at least in my perspective, is kind of heading down this path because there's no checks and balances. There's no pegging of the dollar to anything. So you can effectively print as much of it as you want. And so, for way too long, our answer to everything is just throw as much money as you can at it. And it's really, really bad for the average citizen, I think.
I just don't see how like you can solve this. Like if you talk about everything that you just said, Zach, about getting off the gold standard, but then if you add on top of that, like, I think that fraud is like fundamentally baked into our way of doing things. Like, I don't think it's even, you can parse it out. And not only that, I don't think anyone in position actually has the competence to do it if they had to. Like, I think it's not how you play the game. Like, the actual game of politics is like, get elected. And any funny business, fraud, whatever, that happens. Like, this stuff just doesn't seem solvable.
Because if you think about just nationally, I think the number is over 50% of employed people are either government jobs or the beneficiary of a government contract to a private company that is employing people. So 50% of the country is employed by these budgets effectively. Right. I think the number for Booz Allen is Booz Allen's a private consulting firm. 98% of their money is government contracts.
And then there's all these NGOs, which is like a whole other rabbit hole, which are non-government organizations, but effectively they're one single customer, or the one single person putting money into these things is the US government. And those, like, the auditing on those is probably even worse than the auditing on the USPS or, any of these government organizations that are really poorly run. The DMV, like, the crazy part is we give infinite money to all of these things and the experience is absolutely terrible at all of them. Like, I don't know if the last time you guys went into a USPS or DMV, but it's just the worst experience ever, and everybody accepts it. And it's just like, oh yeah, it is what it is. You go to the DMV, you're just going to have the worst time ever. But that actually shouldn't be the way that it is.
Right.
We just accepted it. Everybody has just accepted everything.
It's an interesting study on like why, like, I don't know, I guess you could call it free market or you could call it whatever you want, but like a business having to make sense matters. Like, it's like your P&L having to check out matters. If it doesn't, like, I'll give you an example. Like there's a lot of like early venture backed, I'm not talking like big tech companies with like experts. I'm more talking about like, first time or second time entrepreneurs that have like a bunch of venture money and are just ran like absolute shit. Like it's a common thing, right? I don't think it's definitely not everybody. Okay. Maybe it's most. Okay. You can do that because there's this issue of like, you just have someone else's money. And so the actual, discipline that it takes to be profitable is really hard to get to. Like it's a common thing. I see it a lot with like the way people work with like service companies or contractors or agencies like in LA, right? But the point is that's a really small version of that. The government is just like, yeah, keep fucking it up, keep letting it deteriorate, and we'll get a bigger budget next year. But the only thing that can happen is deterioration.
Well, at least in the venture example, the trade-off there is growth, right? Like these companies are growing really fast. Maybe the sort of like P&L doesn't make sense, but the trade-off is that they're getting much bigger, much more efficient over time. And the idea is eventually that they'll turn a profit. I think Amazon went 25 years or something without ever turning a profit. Now it's one of the most profitable businesses ever. So at least with the venture-backed businesses, they are growing and getting better and getting more efficient over time. At least that's the thought. You look at any of these government organizations, they are only getting worse. Year over year, they are only providing worse service. Yeah,
and look, my example, well, just real quick, is like, I don't mean like Amazon stuff. I mean like, that apparel company that got funding in LA. What I'm saying is like, the reason the ones who keep growing is because if they don't keep getting money. The investor money runs out. No one else is going to invest in them. They die. That's that's how it should be. Survival of the fittest. The government is that you keep running it worse and you keep getting bigger checks. Mm-hmm. And it's just the opposite, but you can't, what's the incentive to run it well? You're going to get a bigger check next year, no matter what. Why would you ever give a shit to run the DMV more efficiently? There's zero incentive.
That goes back to the printing of the dollars, because if you can always print more dollars, there's always more dollars available.
But if you go back to the stat that half the workforce in America is a beneficiary of these budgets from the government. And
that's
if you clean up the fraud, you can't clean up the fraud.
You can't.
Because where are these people? You can't have like, if that 50% workforce reduces by 10%, we're in like economic catastrophe for the country.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's too interwoven at this point. You can't.
Which is why Elon had to give up on Doge, because he was basically like, it's unfixable. I tried my best.
Yeah, it's a cost of doing business. Fraud is just same way the American government officials went to Ukraine and said, we know there's fraud, just chill out a bit. We don't want to look like total idiots. These people aren't as stupid as we think. I think they just know they can't do anything.
Yeah, I think that they're not stupid. They're just playing a different game than what we think they're playing. We think they're trying to run things efficiently. Yeah. They're trying to get reelected and get some money while they're at it and write a book. I just think like, because even in my head, I was like, oh, well, I guess maybe AI will be the solve for this, right? Because essentially, I feel like AI is already or will be soon good enough that it could manage a state's books very easily. If you don't want to find the solution, or you can't because there goes everyone's jobs, then fuck it. So I guess the game Elon's playing is you got to keep the growth happening at a speed that outruns the fraud and the incompetence. That's the only way the thing keeps running.
But this is like, I hear Dee always saying this, which is like AI actually stands to be incredibly deflationary.
Yeah.
Because the reason that everything costs so much is because there's so much fraud and waste and bullshit tied into everything. So you either get higher taxes, you get higher Medicare costs, all of these different things just pile up and pile up and pile up. And at a certain point, like, the rubber is going to meet the road, and it's going to be impossible for people to say, actually, we need 35 people managing this one DMV day in and day out. There is going to be AI replacing it. And what that does for the average person who just kind of like stamps papers at the DMV remains to be seen. But like the whole promise of AI is that you can get rid of half of this bullshit by just sort of like eliminating all of this waste and fraud.
Right, because here's the question, and Anand, you might have just said it. How many government employees are there in the country? Do you know, roughly?
I don't know the exact number. I'm sure we could just put it in Gemini or ChatGPT, but the point is half the workforce is a beneficiary of it.
24 million. Let me see what it says. U.S. government employs 3 million civilians, roughly. Oh, well, that's military. 19.6 million state and local. Okay, so here was going to be my question is how many of those could AI and efficient, like how many do you need of 22 million?
That are directly, and we're not talking about the indirect. The 50% is the indirect and the direct.
Right, but then you would imagine that would be wildly, well, I don't know, whatever. And let's just say for the sake of conversation, of the 22 million, how many do you need? 5 million?
Probably.
Maybe even less.
And what do you do with all those people?
Elon
You're going to need UBI.
What did Elon do with Twitter? He fired 90% of the existing staff, and now X is
way more efficient. The most fucked up part is that UBI at a certain rate of waste and fraud, UBI could actually be cheaper than how much we just throw away to random bullshit.
Because what do you do? Like when you have a technology that is also, going to, I think it will be deflationary to your and Dee's point. I think, look, I guess you can't say for sure that it's going to take jobs, but it's definitely going to change a lot of them. And then if you got rid of these government jobs, like the reality of what an actual efficient government looks like is just so wildly different. And
I mean, all you have to do is talk to somebody in a place like Dubai, for instance. Like if you need a permit for anything in Dubai, you can get it like the same week, especially if you're doing something like entrepreneurial or like stands to make Dubai better in some kind of way. Like there is no regulatory red tape around basically doing anything out there. Especially if you're an Emirati. And like realistically, that's how society should be run. It's insane that like the burnt down like buildings in the Palisades still don't even have permits to rebuild. It's just waste and fraud and incompetence.
Okay, I think we should shift because it's kind of tied in, but this billionaire tax topic, right? Because I think, like, I know I'm kind of repeating my complaints, but like, to me, the real issue is everything we just talked about for the last 20 minutes, not the billionaires. But somehow this topic of billionaires and billionaire tax and all this stuff continues to get, like you said earlier on, and more popular. And this type of thinking is very much the Mamdani thing, very much the AOC thing, the Bernie Sanders thing. And it's really gaining, it's already popular, but really gaining popularity. And now there's this, is it proposed or is it official?
It's proposed. It still has to pass various levels.
And it's a California thing?
It's a California thing. Right. And my whole thing about this is like, if you want to bring in more money to the state, this is like the single stupidest way that you could possibly approach this, because the thing about billionaires is they have unlimited access to go do whatever it is that they want. And to like, just sit here and imagine, oh, they're just going to sit here and allow themselves to be taxed and not move or not move their assets offshore or do any number of financial hocus pocus that can get them out of this. They have unlimited money to spend on lawyers, accountants, can buy houses anywhere, can do anything that they want. Yes. It's like literally just trying to appease a very non-informed group of voters where it's like, oh, we'll tax the billionaires. What most people don't realize is that the billionaires will just leave. I personally have probably friends that are collectively worth $50 billion that are, or more actually, that are looking at places in Miami, already testing out Miami, like Miami, Texas, all of these places. Yeah. They're just buying houses, figuring out if they can move their LLCs there. They're not going to stay and get taxed. That's the last thing that's going to happen. So in fact, we're just going to lose the money that they would have happily paid in tax. California taxes are some of the highest in the country already. Right. And they were already paying it. Now they'll pay zero.
It's just how, is that incompetence? Like, how do you not know that?
No, it's pandering. It's basically saying the average person doesn't understand that billionaires can do this. So we're going to say, oh, we're going to go after the big bad billionaires and take more money from them. But the average person doesn't realize billionaires will never let that happen.
No,
and
so
you don't
even
care because if you're the politician, you don't care because you don't actually care about the future of the state. You care about getting reelected and making your people,
you care about
nice
getting reelected, or you have a national goal to, be a presidential candidate. And guess what? You went after the billionaires. That probably resonates in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in some of these swing states. Minnesota even.
Yeah, these negative places that you're describing, this rhetoric really works there because they can go and be like, oh, I went head to head with the billionaires. And it doesn't matter if it works or not. It's just the image that they're going after these things.
So what's the fascinating part?
It's wild.
So it's been proposed and it's talked about in the news for the last
I don't think it'll pass. Yeah.
I don't think it'll pass. And I think Gavin will actually veto it. He's vetoed other bills that were pretty predatory towards rich people. So I don't think it'll actually go into place, but I think the rhetoric is strong enough that people, like Zach is saying, are moving. And the real scare is they go after the billionaires, then they're going to go after the 100 millionaires, then they're going to go after the 10 millionaires, then they're going to go after the 1 millionaires. They're not going to stop if this were to pass. But the other fascinating part that kind of transpired in the last week or two is this Congressman Ro Khanna, Indian guy that is in Cupertino is his district. So Apple, NVIDIA, ServiceNow, Intel, AMD, some of the biggest tech companies in the history of the world are all in his district. And he's championing this billionaire tax, the 5% one-time tax on realized and unrealized gains as it is written today. It hasn't been actually gone to vote with that, but that's what they're talking about. And then he now angered tech Twitter. All these tech billionaires that we've all heard of, all campaigned for him. They were who got him elected. Yeah, they did all the charity dinners. They donated a ton of money. They basically placed him because, we finally have a pro-tech guy. And he turned their back on him because he probably has national sights on something. Yeah. They all are trying to primary him. He's up for re-election in his district in June of next year in his primary. Now all the tech billionaires are trying to find someone to go against him and try to displace him. So what's his calculus other than he has national hopes? He's not a moron. Obviously, he got all these billionaires to be on his side and he just turned his back on them.
Yeah. That's what I don't get. I mean, maybe they see a plan. Look, I will say, they've had a lot of success on the the other guy strategy, anti-Trump, anti-billionaire, and it's like, look, your plan doesn't make any sense, but whatever, you're getting all the attention because you're anti that thing. And maybe they really think in their playbook, and it could be like, who's going to be the Democratic nominee? It's going to be AOC or Gavin Newsom, or it's going to be,
it's going to be someone with that message.
I mean,
what I think is happening is people looked at Mamdani and were like, oh my God, look, this random guy who had no political background went out with this message and won one of the toughest cities to win in. And they looked at this and were like, I can recreate this elsewhere and I'll probably get a lot of support for it. That's literally what's happening.
That you're right, because I think everyone looked at Mamdani's campaign and thought too aggressive.
And then he won, and everyone was like, holy shit. Yeah. There are so many other places that this playbook can be run and have a really good shot.
I think you're right. Because that playbook, once again, just guessing, I think that playbook shocked a lot of Democrats, even like politicians. And damn, that shit worked. This guy had no experience and was a little wild. And I guess that's our route. He
came out of obscurity. He was polling at 1% to 2% when he started.
Yeah.
And he won the biggest city in the country and the most important city in the world.
Well, there you go. That explains Ro Khanna to me instantly.
Right.
But I guess the point is that there's going to be a lot more Ro Khannas and a lot more Mamdanis, because I think that, to your point, the negativity throughout the country is so high that this is just exactly what people want to hear, even though it doesn't work. And even though it's actually going to make their lives worse in the long run, it's just what they want to hear in the short term.
It's just if you had a friend who was heartbroken or depressed because they lost their job or whatever, you would never go over to that friend's house and say, yeah, you know what? It is unfair. They are, you would say, come on, man, fuck that. Fuck them. You got this. Get up. Let's go work out. Let's go talk to some girls. Let's go. Like, you would build that person up. You would not tell them that, yeah, everyone is doing you wrong. And you know what? Just come with me. I'll save you. It's like, it's such a like taking the knees out from somebody approach. Like, there's no, it's like, yes, you are a victim. Yes, it is unfair. And I'll save you.
But the even worse version of that, which is like also true in these situations, is I will save you, but they're fundamentally lying, because they're like, oh yeah, I'll save you. And maybe they help you out for the first year or first couple months of you feeling like shit. Right. And then all of a sudden they're gone. They're on to new political ambitions. They're on to like the federal level where they just don't even care about the sort of wreckage they leave behind. Like if Ro Khanna wants to run for some federal position, it doesn't actually matter what happens in California in 2, 3, 4 years, because he'll be on to the next thing. Yeah. And so that's the most fucked up part about it, is that you're trading long-term stability and benefits to the people that you're talking to for this like short-term appeasement.
Yeah, Trump 1.0, he mastered it. That's how he got elected. He went and said, I'm bringing jobs back to the heartland. I'm bringing manufacturing jobs. I care about the farmers. That's how he won in 2016. Mondani's just the next iteration. It just so happens to be a Democrat. I would suspect whoever's going to run on the Republican side is going to have that same playbook.
I do got to say,
they can't. I don't think the next guy on the Republican side can bring the way Trump, he was so popular, he could bring David Sachs and Elon and all these tech like geniuses. Right. I don't think the new Republican can. Trump just had that much kind of, power socially in the country that he was able to do whatever he wanted. I don't think the new guy can. They're going to have this socialist message.
Yeah, I wonder. You might be right. But my question is, does it not feel like at least Trump, I'm not saying it'll necessarily work, but like with tariffs and with all these deals and with pressuring the shit out of all of these huge US corporations to bring stuff back to America, like it seems like there's actual tangible attempts being made at looking out for Americans. No? Or do you think it's all bullshit? Like as opposed to like, we're just going to tax them more. Like instead you're at least punishing other countries and trying to get people to onshore, trying to incentivize them to, look, I'm not going to punish you, but like you got to bring jobs here. At least it's like there's a plan. If you just tax the billionaires and chase them out of your state, that's not a plan.
Yeah. I don't know. I think no matter where you stand politically in this administration, I think either side, Republican or Democrat, is going to have to use that playbook. It's working. It's working everywhere.
Yeah. And I think the terrible thing is like, it's sort of like a drug, like it's going to work. And then the next person's going to be a little more extreme and that's going to work. And then, and cause every time the people of these states or this, whatever, like are just more, like you said, like they leave their people behind for hopefully for them a higher job in office. But then now the people are even more, fucked up. And so the next person just has a stronger message about whose fault it is. And then they fuck it up. And then the next person just has a stronger message about who to blame. Like it's a slope. You just don't, who pulls out of it?
Well, I mean, there's a place that you can look at to see what this ends up being, which is the UK right now.
Right.
And like Labour and the other party, it's escaping me right now. Both of them have had this rhetoric of like, why are we not taxing rich people more? And you know what the rich people did? They've left. Yeah. They just have, and they've all gone to Dubai and Italy. And these economies are doing insanely better because they now have these high spending people who have these amazing companies that are all living in these places now. Right. And the UK is fucked because once you leave London and you're like in Dubai in the fucking summer all year round, you're like, why would I ever go back? That's the problem, is once you kick these people out, they're going to find lives elsewhere and they're going to become adjusted to them.
Right.
And then the idea of them ever coming back is going to be like, why would I ever go back?
Well, and for the country, think about what political suicide it is to say, you know what, we're going to lessen tax on rich people. Like once you go down the road of more, you can't do that.
You just won't win.
Right. So where does it end? It's just everything becomes
It
the
only
UK,
gets worse.
and Dubai is just popping.
Yeah.
I think Dubai, Miami, I mean, you can see where this is all going.
Yeah, London or Dubai's the new London, Miami's the new New York.
Who would have thought that all the places that were the biggest just for like vibes were just gonna, they were the.
But if you think about what rich people want, that's all they want. Good vibes.
I know, but when you match good vibes, if you just have good vibes to offer, it's one thing. But when you can offer good vibes and like an incredible, tax rate and future, it's like, shit.
There was a stigma 10 to 12 years ago. You're going to Dubai if you're like a hot girl.
Yeah.
The assumptions are like rampant.
Yeah. Now you're just smart and you care about your future.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's like, oh no, I'm actually going for LP meetings.
Literally, or like I'm just going because that's where all the fucking, that's where all of the forward thinking men and women are.
Yep.
I don't know. Where am I going to go?
God.
Portland? Protest for a living?
Which is possible, by the way.
The only upside is the memes on the daycares have been incredible on Twitter.
I got to tune in. I've been.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good, you have 5 minutes to spare. You'll be laughing.
You know what the other thing I saw right before I came in here is that apparently the next shoe to drop after Minnesota is Columbus, Ohio.
No way.
Yeah. Look that up. Look up Columbus, Ohio daycares on your Twitter.
Okay.
And apparently that is the next. There are people now going into all of these different, because all of this stuff is public record. You can see how much the government is subsidizing each.
Dude, I saw a tweet now that you bring it up, Zach, that someone had a daycare in Ohio and then they went on Google Maps and it was a smoke shop.
Yeah, exactly. Columbus, Ohio is the next shoe to drop.
I did see that.
Bro. It's everywhere. It's every fucking, that's a Somali thing also or no?
No, that's just.
Unsure if it's Somali. Somalis are mostly in Minnesota. That's like where the largest contingent is.
And how did they become the owners of the fraud there? How did they? It just spread through the community?
Enterprising. I think they're enterprising.
No, but I think it's these very tight knit communities where like if you're a Somalian in Minnesota, you very rarely are talking to people outside of the Somalian community.
Right.
And so therefore you can like push these types of fraud. But this is not true of just Somalians. This is true of any ethnic group where it's like very insular, right? It's like you're just not going to talk to other people. And so you can have these frauds that are like, because there's nobody snitching. Nobody's snitching on their fellow Somalian. So, or whatever ethnic group you want to sort of lump into all of this stuff. And so that's why it's able to persist for so long.
Right.
Because no one's going and it's like, hey, this is kind of, because they're all benefiting from it somehow.
It's just funny how like, and I hope, I don't think this is stereotypical. I think it's just true, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like there are a lot of these little industries that certain races or ethnicities like take to. Like I don't want to name any because I don't want to get in trouble, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's certain shops that are a bunch of people from one country or a bunch of like, and I feel like it's the same thing. Like you kind of learn legally though, the old school way that like, oh, go to America and open a laundromat. There's an opportunity there. And then it spreads through that community and more people come. And now all of a sudden there's a bunch of laundromats.
I mean, I'll give you the Indian example because I can say Gujarati Indians do motels.
That's true.
Every motel is a Patel. It's like a known thing.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Perfect.
And you move from India, you come here and you have a motel.
Right. So now in 2025, you move here and you do fucking daycare scam. Like it just feels like that. Like it's like the new thing is like, what fraud can you get in on? And then it spreads throughout the community as it would. And now it's the opportunity.
There's a great documentary as an aside about how every donut shop in LA is run by like one Cambodian family, basically.
Yeah, I love that.
I highly recommend people looking at it. It's actually pretty interesting.
Right. But that just sort of occurred to me, even though I guess it's common sense. But is that not the same thing? Like it just spreads back home through the community and they say, hey, there's an opportunity, uncle, whatever's making a killing over there. And then you come over and open your own.
But the most fucked up part about the Somali example specifically is that if you follow the trail of money long enough, it ends up in African ISIS, Al-Shabaab, random Somali pirate groups.
That's why the federal government's involved. That's why Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, is sending the FBI to Minnesota because they found the money trail, like Zach just said.
Right.
And now it's a federal problem, not a state problem.
And now Minnesota autism dollars are funding pirates in Africa.
That's sick. That's so 2025. Is it true that the estimated total number taken in fraud is like higher than the GDP, or was that a real thing?
No, that's the entire state potential fraud. That is not the Somali fraud. That includes Medicaid, everything. And the GDP of Somalia is 12 billion.
Right.
The potential max fraud in Minnesota, but this is all fraud, not just
I see. Okay.
This stuff. 18. This is where the Twitter takes kind of liberty on the memes.
Yeah, I just saw the headline and that's why I asked. I've learned not to.
It's a highly insensitive way to talk about the topic, which obviously, as we know, gets clicks.
That's right.
But you know what is crazy? Have you seen the new Minnesota flag?
I haven't.
I encourage everybody to go look up the new Minnesota flag and then put it side by side with the Somali flag.
No way.
Just tell me what you see.
You're kidding.
Just let me know what you guys see.
I have to do it real quick. No, it's the same. It's the fucking, God damn it. When did it get changed? Flag. It's the same flag, but with an extra little, navy blue area. But when did it get changed? Recently, like within the last year. Ah, fuck. This is wild. It's wild times. Look, here's the good news. I want to maybe end on a pod. Do we have anything else that we need to talk about?
No, we'll just wrap it up.
Here's what I think is incredibly positive. Well, number one, here's one little topic I'll just brush over that is incredibly positive. Overdoses are plummeting in America, not just fentanyl, but cocaine and meth as well. So I know I can
put a negative spin on that if you want, though.
Go ahead. Give it to us. It's all kratom. What is it?
It's not kratom. It's this new drug called Trank, Tranq.
I've never heard of it.
And if you were to look up amputations over the same time period, they would be up some ridiculously insane amount, because there's a cheaper drug than fentanyl now that gets you more fucked up that most of the like really hardcore drug addicts are doing. And it doesn't kill you, but it does make your musculature basically rot. And so you have to get your arms and legs or wherever you inject it chopped off.
Oh, Jesus.
But there's a drug called Trank that is the new drug of choice for all of the hardcore drug users.
Bro, you are so on the cutting edge. The fact that you can tell us about the newest missiles that we just shipped overseas and fucking Trank is crazy.
Look up Trank. It's fucking nuts.
Oh, God. Okay, well, Zach fucked that one up. Here would be my positive spin. My positive spin is I do like the fact that, like, look, I think obviously we talk about this a lot. Fucked up shit has been happening forever. But the fact that, like, because of the internet and even phones, and like anyone can research this fraud and people can go in and film the daycares that are actually vape shops. And like, there is a fundamental like urge to get rid of this shit and like do good, by the people. And like the fact that, now I feel like you guys just mentioned Columbus, Ohio, like people are going to start looking into all of this. And it just feels to me like, I don't know, at least things are a little bit more even with the internet. Whereas before you could just bury this and there's nothing you can do and the news isn't going to talk about it and nothing you can do. And I don't know.
At least you can get eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
But it remains to be seen if you can actually get it to change.
True.
Like, which is maybe even more fucked up.
Right. Tim Walz might be the Democratic nominee and, he could potentially win.
He's a 66% on Polymarket that he's going to get charged with a federal crime.
Yes.
Which I would go long on.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you have it. Anything else? We're good?
No, we're good. I think we're just teasing the next episode, which is winners, predictions, losers of last year.
Yeah, that's going to be a big
episode.
One. That's next week, next Sunday,
next Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wednesday's New Year's. So no pod until next Sunday.
Right. And, if for anyone who's new here, like not only is it really fun to just try to predict, but, you're going to hear a lot of, probably Dee bragging about what he got right. We're going to recap, what our opinions were or our takes were for this year. And then, set all of our predictions. And Zach, you think you'll be able to join probably?
Yeah, I can join.
Hell yeah.